This movie actually made me kind of mad. Hey, I'm Amy and welcome back. The new live action Lion King is finally here, and I say live action because this is completely CGI. I think there's maybe one scene in this entire movie that is actually live action, and it has no animals or anything else in it. It is, I'm pretty sure, this time-lapse scene. That's about it. Nothing super special. Everyone probably knows how I feel about them calling this a live action remake because I've talked about it for a million years, but I tried to go into this with an open mind and pretty much everything I had predicted about this for the last year, 2 years, ever since they announced this movie. And then also in my Lion King review of the original animated movie, you can check it out over there, was pretty much true. Everything, I was not surprised by anything that I saw. So I guess maybe I should go over some of the positives of this movie for me. One is the cats are very realistic looking, which I understand is why they are calling it live action. I just love big cats. They're the best. I love cats in general, but seeing the big cats and the animals was really cool and beautiful and breathtaking. But because they were so realistic, watching them talk was super weird and strange. But because they were so realistic looking, it really just got me in the heart, especially Mufasa's death. And for the most part, the voice acting was not so great. There were a couple bright spots in the film, though. I really loved John Oliver, Seth Rogen, and Billy Eichner. John Oliver was Zazu, Billy Eichner was Timon, and Seth Rogen was Pumbaa, and I thought all three of them did a wonderful job. They were all very, very funny and actually brought some life to their characters. The friend who saw it with me did not like John Oliver, even though he was a very big is a very big fan of John Oliver. He just didn't think he performed as well as he probably could have, but pretty much everyone loved Rogen and Eichner as Timon and Pumbaa because they had such great chemistry, and I think that is attributed to the fact, let's see if I can talk, that they recorded their sessions together. They were always in the booth together recording and riffing off each other, and a lot of that made it into the film. And they had some of the more different lines to their characters because a lot of the lines, a lot of the scenes, pretty much every line in every scene for the most part was ripped from the original, and they were the only ones, because they were riffing off of each other, that had different lines than their original characters, which I think is what brought life to it. I think that already said that, but I'm going to say it again. So those are maybe the two bright spots for me. Other than that, it was like an anchor. This is probably my least favorite of any of these Disney live action movies that I have seen. Yeah. The voice acting was not good, even though they had some of the best actors, and Beyonce's not an actress. You only got her because she can sing, and the original song that she sings is literally in the movie for 2 seconds, and then it's gone, and they added an extra scene for her because she's Beyonce that didn't really need to be there because it didn't need to be there. They just did it so she could have more screen time because Nala doesn't really have a ton of screen time, but I really did not like her performance. And even James Earl Jones, who played the original Mufasa, they could have just taken his lines and his voice acting from the original and put it in here because it's the exact same lines, just said with more oomph. He felt because it felt like he just wasn't delivering his all that he could have in this, like he does when he is in pretty much any of his other iconic roles. Darth Vader, he always brought back that power, that just thing that makes you afraid of Vader. And then in this one, he just felt very not Mufasa-like. I talked about this a lot in my Lion King review of the original. It is such an iconic movie, mostly because of James Earl Jones' voice as Mufasa. And when they bring him back to tell Aladdin to remember, they don't it felt very weak. It didn't have the power that the original remember really had to it. And you could barely tell, like, spoilers, you could barely tell that he was in the clouds. I will say, though, that even though the voice acting wasn't superb, the actress, I don't remember her name, who voiced Shinzi the hyena, she made the hyena sound more menacing than Scar did, or the way even Scar looked. And speaking of looks, that's a whole nother thing. Scar did not look menacing at all. But Chiwetel Ejiofor did kind of bring a little bit more of the sinister vibe, but not as much as Jeremy Irons had in the original. That's kind of a trade-off, but okay, the way the animals looked, that probably would be the next best thing to go on to. You couldn't really tell any of them apart. Like, all the hyenas except for Shinzi looked the same. All of the lionesses looked the same. Literally, I couldn't tell Simba's mom, Nala, or Nala's mom apart when they were all grouped together as lionesses, like adults. It was very hard to tell Simba and Nala, like young Simba and Nala, apart. And Simba, like adult Simba and Mufasa, were kind of hard to tell apart as well. The only one that really stood out was Scar because he didn't have as full of a mane and he was a little bit darker like he is in the original, but not as dark. And then all of the hyenas, did I say that already? All of the hyenas but Shinzi look the same. Like, all of, like, oh, it's like they just copy and pasted animals. I could not even tell the voice acting between Keegan-Michael Key and Eric Andre apart, and they have very distinctive voices. They sounded identical, and I was just like, which one are you? Who are you? Like, trying to figure out who they were. Amy Sedaris, I looked up on IMDb and I saw that her name was in the credits and she was to a completely new character. You can tell her character when the voice comes up, but it's for like 2 seconds and then she's gone, and it was very disappointing. I like Amy Sedaris a lot. She's very funny, but we don't get anything from Amy Sedaris in this movie. It's just very, I mean, it's not even funny. They don't even, like, they barely give her a line. And also, going off of the way the animals looked, and this kind of goes into something that I would change about the film in general, because they are such lifelike animals, or like photorealistic animals, you don't get any of the emotion that you get in the original one. In the original one, you get to see Scar play with a mouse between his fingers and like do dramatic things like this. Like, you can't do that with a real animal, so you don't get the emotion, and also the emotion in their faces. I talked about this and showed some examples in my Lion King review, so definitely check that out if you want to see some of these examples. They're more towards the end of the film, or end of the video. No, it's not a film, the end of the video. The way most animals express their emotions is not through their face anyways, it's through their ears and their tail, and they could have utilized that very, very well within this film, and they only did it in a couple instances, like when Scar is telling Simba to run after his dad dies, and like even when you see Simba getting yelled at by his dad, his ears kind of go back a little bit and his tail goes between his legs, but at the same time they don't utilize it as well as they could or should have. And that leads me into some things that they could have fixed about this movie. I also have a ton of other notes on this that if you want to read any of those, they will be on my Patreon tomorrow. There is a lot there, and I highly recommend checking them out if you are interested in more of my thoughts on this. But how I think they could have made this a little bit better is kind of taken out all the voice actors, because the parts that the animals were the weakest was when they were talking, because of the voice performances and because of the way the animals looked talking. When they were doing the animal thing without talking, it was perfect. Like, I actually kind of enjoyed myself, except for sometimes when some of the jokes were coming from Timon and Pumbaa, even though some of those jokes didn't necessarily land all the time for me. And I love meta humor, and they got a little meta, but they just didn't land. It felt like they were pulling at straws. But anyways, it would have been kind of cool, and I was talking with my friend Griffin from Men vs. Movies about this, and then also a couple of my other friends, that they could have done a completely silent film of this and it would have been super cool. They could have done the Hamlet story, done the Lion King story with the animals and had maybe James Earl Jones kind of narrate it a little bit or something over top of just Hans Zimmer's beautiful score. It would have been such a breathtakingly powerful movie. It would have been like a lot of the Disney nature documentaries. There is an entire Disney nature documentary called Big Cats that I own and I absolutely love. And it could have been very much like that. And it would have been super interesting and fun and different. And I wish Disney would have taken that risk like they are taking with Mulan by taking out all of the songs and taking out Mushu, bringing it back more to being a traditional, like putting Mulan in her traditional Chinese heritage a little bit, bringing in traditional Chinese music and making it feel real. This looked real, but it didn't feel real. I wanted it to feel maybe like a nature documentary or a silent film. It would have been interesting. Disney, get me interesting. So to sum this all up, my rewatch score for this is a TV. I would maybe watch this on mute in the background, and when I see Timon and Pumbaa, unmute it. But other than that, I probably will never watch this movie again, even when it's on Disney Plus. And I plan on getting Disney Plus, and it's going to be on there. And I will be avoiding this movie like the plague on there. I would not give this an avoid score. I don't think it's that bad. It is not what I felt when I watched Alita or even like Happy Time Murders, but I do like the visuals, and I can't not love the big cats because they look so beautiful. And like when you first see baby Simba, you just like, it's a little kitten. But let me know what you guys think. I know a lot of people really liked it. The audience that I went to see this with was cheering and laughing the entire time. I don't know, a lot of people liked it. I just really could not get over my blocks about it, but also pretty much everything that happened when I watched the movie. So anyways, again, let me know, but thank you guys so much for watching. I really truly do appreciate you. Whoever you are, let me know who you are in the comments down below, and let's be friends. If you enjoyed this, leave a like, and subscribe if you're new, because I love talking movies, TV shows, filmmaking, film history, all that fun stuff, and I'll see you next time. Bye!